I... I hate myself!
These aren't the words of a villain. These aren't the words of someone giving up. These are the words of a hero breaking down under the weight of something no one else can see, something no one else will ever understand. Natsuki Subaru has died more times than most people have lived. He's been stabbed, frozen, crushed, eaten alive, and torn apart over and over again. And every single time he wakes up with all the memories, all the pain, all the trauma, but no one else remembers, no one else knows. He can't tell them, he can't ask for help, he can't even scream, and so he carries it alone. The weight of infinite lives, the burden of impossible choices, the curse of being unable to fail. Because failing means watching everyone he loves die. Again, and again, and again. This is the philosophy of Subaru Natsuki from ReZero. A story about what it truly means to be human when you're trapped in a cycle that strips away your humanity piece by piece. Before we understand Subaru's suffering, we need to understand who Subaru was. In his original world, Japan, Subaru was a shut-in, a hikikomori, a NEET who spent his days playing video games, watching anime, and avoiding reality. But it wasn't always like that. Once upon a time, Subaru had a father he idolized. Kenichi Natsuki was everything Subaru wanted to be. Charismatic, funny, beloved by everyone. Subaru tried to be like his dad. He tried to be the class clown, the popular kid, the center of attention. But here's the thing about trying to be someone else. You'll always fall short. Every time someone compared Subaru to his father, every time his friends slowly left him behind, every time he failed to live up to the shadow of the man he admired, it crushed him. Little by little, his confidence crumbled. His inferiority complex grew, and eventually he stopped trying. He stopped going to school, he locked himself in his room, he pushed everyone away, including his parents who never stopped loving him. And deep down, Subaru hated himself for it. He hated being weak, he hated being a failure, he hated disappointing the people who believed in him. Then one day, he was transported to another world. For someone like Subaru, this should have been a dream come true, a fantasy world. Magic, beautiful girls, adventure, a chance to start over, a chance to be the hero he always fantasized about being, a chance to finally be special. And at first, that's exactly what Subaru thought was happening. He even says it himself. This is my isekai protagonist moment. He assumed he'd have cheat abilities. He assumed he'd be overpowered. He assumed the world would bend to his will because that's how it works in every isekai anime he'd ever watched. But reality doesn't care about your assumptions. Subaru has no magic. He has no special powers. He's physically average at best. And when he tries to play hero in the first hour of arriving, he almost gets killed by common street thugs. He's saved by a girl named Amelia, a beautiful half-elf who shows him kindness when no one else would. And in that moment, Subaru falls in love. Not just with her, but with the idea of her. The idea of being her hero, the idea of finally mattering to someone. And that's when he receives his gift. When Subaru dies for the first time, stabbed in the gut by an assassin named Elsa, he doesn't stay dead. Instead, he wakes up hours earlier, back at the same vendor stand where he first arrived as if nothing happened. He calls it return by death. And at first, it seems like exactly what he needed. A reset button, a way to fix his mistakes, a way to be the hero he always wanted to be. But return by death isn't a gift, it's a curse disguised as power. Most people think immortality would be a blessing. Infinite time, infinite chances, no consequences. But Subaru's immortality isn't like that. Every time he dies, he feels it. The blade piercing his stomach, the cold spreading through his body as he freezes to death, the teeth tearing into his flesh, the crushing weight of despair as he watches his friends die in front of him, knowing he could have saved them if only he'd been smarter, faster, stronger, and then he resets. Back to a checkpoint in time, back to a moment where everyone is still alive, still smiling, still unaware of the horrors that await them. But here's the cruelest part. Only Subaru remembers. The people he saves, they don't know he saved them. The people who died, they're alive again, but they have no memory of their death. The sacrifices he makes, invisible. The pain he endures, unseen. He suffers alone, in complete isolation, and he can't tell anyone. If he tries to reveal return by death, if he even hints at it, the Witch of Envy appears and kills whoever he's talking to. She crushes their heart. She strangles him. She reminds him that this power is his burden alone. This is existential loneliness in its purest form. Jean-Paul Sartre once said, hell is other people. But for Subaru, hell isn't other people. Hell is being unable to truly connect with other people. Hell is carrying a truth that will forever separate you from everyone you love. And this is where Subaru's philosophy begins to take shape. Return by death gives Subaru something that most humans desperately crave: control over fate. Think about it. How many times have you wished you could go back and fix a mistake? How many times have you thought, if only I had a second chance? Subaru has infinite second chances. He can retry. He can learn. He can optimize. He can theoretically achieve the perfect timeline where everyone lives and everyone is happy. But here's the paradox. The more control Subaru has, the more powerless he becomes. Because with infinite retries comes infinite responsibility. Every death becomes his fault. Every failure becomes his failure. If someone dies, it's because he wasn't smart enough, wasn't careful enough, wasn't good enough to save them. And Subaru begins to internalize this. He begins to believe that every tragedy is a personal failing, that every loss is proof of his inadequacy. This is the burden of choice magnified to its most extreme. In normal life, we make a choice and live with the consequences. We don't know what would have happened if we'd chosen differently. But Subaru does know. He knows exactly what happens if he turns left instead of right. He knows exactly what happens if he trusts the wrong person. He knows exactly what happens if he's 5 seconds too slow, and that knowledge is torture. Because no matter how hard he tries, no matter how many times he dies, there's always another way it could have gone better. Always another mistake he made. Always another person he failed to save. Return by death doesn't free Subaru from suffering. It traps him in an infinite cycle of self-blame. Now here's where Subaru's character becomes uncomfortable. Because Subaru isn't just a tragic hero suffering nobly. He's also deeply, profoundly flawed in ways that make him hard to watch. In the early arcs, Subaru doesn't actually save people because it's the right thing to do. He saves people because he wants to be seen as a hero. He wants validation. He wants Amelia to fall in love with him because he earned it by saving her life multiple times, even though she has no memory of those other timelines. This is the ugly truth about Subaru. He's selfish, entitled, desperate for recognition. He treats people like NPCs in a video game rather than real human beings with their own agency and desires. The most infamous example of this is during the Royal Selection arc. Emilia is competing to become the next ruler of the kingdom. It's a dangerous political process full of powerful enemies. And Subaru, despite having no status, no skills, and no understanding of the political landscape, barges in and tries to fight for her. He humiliates her in front of the entire court. He acts like a child throwing a tantrum. He demands that Amelia trust him unconditionally, that she rely on him, that she see him as her knight, all without explaining why she should. Because he can't. He can't tell her about return by death. He can't tell her that he's died for her dozens of times. He can't tell her that in other timelines, he saved her life, held her hand, shared moments with her that never happened in this reality. And so, from Amelia's perspective, Subaru is just a delusional boy who thinks he's owed her love and gratitude for things she never experienced, and she calls him out on it. "The version of me that lives within you must be amazing," Amelia says, her voice cold and distant. She can understand everything, even if you don't explain it to her. She can feel all your pain, sadness, and anger as her own, but I'm not her. I can't be her. So please, stop forcing your expectations onto me. You've done enough, Natsuki Subaru. And with those words, Subaru's illusion shatters. After Amelia rejects him, Subaru spirals. He tries to prove himself by joining a merchant caravan to investigate the witch's cult, a group of fanatics who worship the Witch of Envy and bring death wherever they go. But Subaru is woefully unprepared. He's weak, reckless, and arrogant, and it costs him everything. The witch's cult attacks. Everyone in the caravan is killed. Emilia is killed. Rem, the maid who's been by his side, supporting him unconditionally, sacrifices herself to go give Subaru a chance to escape. But he doesn't escape. He dies. Again. He resets. He tries again. He fails again. Everyone dies. Again. He tries a third time, a fourth time, a fifth time. And no matter what he does, no matter how clever he thinks he is, he can't save anyone. And eventually, Subaru breaks. He runs away. He tells Rem that he's done, that he can't do this anymore, that he wants to give up on everything, on Amelia, on saving the kingdom, on being a hero. He just wants to run away and live a quiet life where he doesn't have to watch people die anymore. And that's when he says it. I'm weak, I'm a coward, I'm a fool, I'm a liar, I'm pathetic, disgusting, repulsive. I hate myself. For the first time, Subaru admits the truth. He's not a hero. He never was. He's just a scared, broken boy who's in way over his head. But Rem doesn't let him run. In one of the most powerful scenes in the entire series, Rem sits with Subaru and listens as he tears himself apart with self-hatred. And then, she tells him her truth. She tells him about the Subaru she knows. The Subaru who saved her from a curse. The Subaru who held her hand when she was dying. The Subaru who gave her a reason to believe in herself again. You're my hero, she says. And then, in a moment that breaks the hearts of viewers everywhere, she confesses, I love you. Subaru, overwhelmed by her words, by her kindness, by the unconditional love she's offering him, responds with honesty. I love Amelia. It's brutal, it's heartbreaking, but it's also the right answer because Rem isn't offering Subaru an easy escape. She's offering him a reminder. She reminds him that even though he's flawed, even though he's made mistakes, even though he's not the overpowered protagonist he thought he'd be, he's still someone, he still matters. His efforts aren't meaningless just because they're invisible to most people. She sees him, she remembers him, and that's enough. Rem's confession isn't about romantic love. It's about recognizing Subaru's humanity at his lowest point. It's about telling him that even if he hates himself, someone believes in him, and that gives Subaru the strength to stand up one more time. Not because he thinks he'll succeed, not because he thinks he's a hero, but because the alternative, giving up, is worse than dying 1,000 more times. From this point on, Subaru changes. He stops trying to be the hero he thought he should be. Instead, he becomes something much more terrifying, a strategist willing to sacrifice himself endlessly to achieve victory. He dies on purpose to gather information. He manipulates people using knowledge from previous loops. He uses his pain, his suffering, his deaths as tools to engineer the perfect outcome. And it works. He defeats the White Whale, a legendary monster that had terrorized the kingdom for centuries. He defeats Sloth, one of the Sin Archbishops of the Witch's cult. He saves Amelia. He saves the mansion. He saves everyone. But at what cost? Subaru's mental state deteriorates with every loop. The trauma piles up. The memories of his deaths haunt him. He flinches when people touch him. He has panic attacks. He can't sleep without nightmares. He's becoming more effective as a hero, but less human with every death. And this raises a philosophical question that ReZero refuses to answer cleanly. Is it heroic to sacrifice yourself over and over for others? Or is it self-destructive martyrdom? The show doesn't glorify Subaru's suffering. It doesn't frame his deaths as noble sacrifices that should be celebrated. Instead, it shows them as what they are. Traumatic, agonizing experiences that leave permanent scars. Subaru isn't a hero because he dies a lot. He's a hero because despite dying a lot, despite the trauma, despite the pain, he keeps choosing to try. But here's the darkest implication of return by death. Every time Subaru resets, he's not actually saving people. He's abandoning an entire timeline where everyone died. Where Amelia was killed by the witch's cult. Where Rem was eaten by the White Whale and forgotten by everyone. Where Ram died protecting her sister, those timelines still exist. Those people still died. Subaru just isn't there anymore to see it, and Subaru knows this. He knows that in countless alternate worlds, he failed. And everyone he loves is dead. And there's nothing he can do about it except move forward in the timeline where he succeeded. This is the ultimate existential horror of return by death. Subaru isn't preventing tragedies. He's just finding the one reality where the tragedy didn't happen, and living there while countless other versions of his friends die in parallel universes. It's a curse that asks, if you can live in a world where everyone is happy, does it matter that infinite other worlds exist where they're not? And the answer, for Subaru, is devastating. Yes, it does matter, and he has to carry that guilt forever. So what is Subaru's philosophy? At its core, ReZero is about one simple truth. Suffering doesn't make you a hero. Choosing to keep going despite suffering does. Subaru isn't special because he has returned by death. He's special because he chooses to use that power to help others, even when it destroys him. He doesn't have to. He could run away. He could live a quiet life with Rem in some distant village and never look back. He could stop caring about Amelia, about the kingdom, about saving the world. But he doesn't. Not because he's noble, not because he's selfless, but because at the end of the day, Subaru is human. And part of being human is caring about others, even when it hurts. even when it's irrational, even when it costs you everything. This is the philosophy of existentialism in its rawest form. Sartre believed that humans are condemned to be free, that we're forced to make choices and create our own meaning in a meaningless universe. And Subaru embodies this perfectly. He wasn't chosen by fate. He wasn't granted power by a benevolent god. He was cursed by a lovesick witch and thrown into a nightmare with no guidance, no training, and no guarantee of success. And yet he chooses to fight. He chooses to care. He chooses to define himself not by the power he was given, but by how he uses it. Subaru's heroism isn't about strength, it's about choice. Let's return to where we started. I hate myself. Subaru said those words at his lowest point, and in many ways, he never stopped believing them. Even after he becomes stronger, even after he saves people, even after he earns the title of knight, Subaru still struggles with self-worth. Because the truth is, Subaru's journey isn't about learning to love himself, it's about learning to keep going. Despite not loving himself, it's about accepting that you don't have to be perfect to be worthy, that you don't have to be special to matter, that you don't have to stop hating yourself to still be someone worth fighting for. And maybe that's the most important lesson Subaru teaches us. You don't have to be a hero to do heroic things, you just have to keep trying. One more time, one more loop, one more choice. Even when you're broken, even when you're scared, even when you hate yourself. Because the alternative, giving up, is the only real failure. I hate myself. Those words will haunt Subaru for the rest of his life. The self-loathing, the guilt, the trauma. They don't go away, they never fully heal, but they also don't stop him. And maybe that's what true strength is. Not the absence of pain, but the willingness to carry it. Not the absence of fear, but the choice to move forward despite it. Subaru Natsuki isn't a perfect hero. He's selfish, reckless, and broken in ways that can't be fixed. But he's also real. He's human, and his struggle to find meaning in a cycle of endless suffering is something that we can all relate to. Because life isn't about avoiding pain. Life is about deciding what you're willing to suffer for. Subaru decided he was willing to suffer for the people he loves. For a world where they can smile, even if he's the only one who remembers the cost. And in the end, maybe that's all heroism really is. Loving people enough to keep trying even when it destroys you. So the next time you feel like giving up, remember Subaru. Remember the boy who hated himself but kept fighting anyway. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is just try again. That's the philosophy of Natsuki Subaru, a boy cursed with immortality, burdened by choice, and defined by his refusal to give up. If this resonated with you, drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever felt trapped in a cycle like Subaru? What would you do with Return by Death? And if you enjoyed this deep dive into ReZero's philosophy, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more anime character analysis. Until next time, keep fighting, keep choosing, keep trying, because you matter, even if you don't believe it yet.